Introduction. Although there are other types of networks and network protocol suites, the combination of TCP/IP and Ethernet represents the vast majority of network connectivity and USC today. Chapter 12 presented a careful introduction to the basic concepts of networking and introduced TCP/IP and Ethernet. In Chapter 13, we expand the discussion to clarify many areas of importance and interest in the implementation of TCP/IP and Ethernet networks. The goal in Chapter 12 was to help you to achieve a basic understanding of networking. The goal of Chapter 13 is to add richness and color to the overall picture of how your email and web surfing and IMing retrieves your web pages successfully, most of the time, and gets your messages to the right place. This chapter focuses particularly on TCP/IP and Ethernet protocols that solve some of the more interesting and important problems. Domain name translation, the formats of the packets, address resolution between IP and physical addresses, and the like. We also expand our discussion of TCP/IP and the Ethernet to improve your understanding of the overall process of moving packets and data from one place to another. For this chapter, we have taken a different approach. In Chapter 12, you studied the overall operation of the 5 layers of TCP/IP Ethernet and network transaction, starting at the application layer of a source and node with the data request and working down to the lower layers through a number of intermediate nodes to the destination each end node. In this chapter, we review the overall process, stopping to raise various issues of interest along the way. Section 13.1 briefly reviews the application layer as background for the remaining discussion. Section 13.2 raises the first important issue of interest, the method used to extract the domain name from the URL and convert it to an IP address using DNS. After obtaining the IP address from DNS, the application sends its request to the transport layer. Section 13.3 discusses some of the features of the transport layer. Section 13.4 addresses several issues that arise in the networking layer. The nature of IP addresses, the HTTP and ARP, the address resolution protocol. Section 13.5 is concerned with the operation of the medium access control portion of the Ethernet data link layer. In the final sections of the chapter, we briefly address 2 additional issues: quality of service and network security, and also provide brief overviews of important technologies that are alternatives to TCP/IP and Ethernet. 13.1 Introducing the process, the application layer. The TCP/IP protocol offers a large number of applications for use on a network. These include voice over IP telephoning, video conferencing, instant messaging, remote login, RSS news feeds, file transfer, remote program execution, and much more. Nonetheless, 3 applications, web services, email, and peer-to-peer music and video sharing account for the vast majority of the traffic on the internet. We remind you at the outset that the typical communication requires lots of little operations. Each operation is in itself fairly simple, but they all add up to a powerful and elegant set of tools for communication. At the same time, trying to view the whole picture at once can be somewhat intimidating. As you read through the description that runs through this chapter, be sure that you always keep the simplicity in mind. For this purpose, we assume that the user sitting at his computer types a URL in his web browser. The URL consists of a domain name. In Chapter 12, Figure 12.2, we showed you how the format of an HTTP message that is sent by the web browser HTTP client application to an HTTP server application in response to a user's request for a web page. As you are already aware from the previous chapter, the HTTP client initiates the process with the request to the TCP socket to establish a logical connection with the HTTP server at the destination site. Before it can do so, however, The HTTP client must first obtain the IP address of the computer that holds the web server. For this purpose, the HTTP client will request the services of a domain name service application. This is the first step in the process of sending the HTTP message to the web server. 13.2 Domain names and DNS services. Domain name system directory services. As a user, you know that domain names serve as user address identifiers for most of your network transactions. Domain names are used throughout the internet, as well as on local area networks, intranets, and extranets. As we noted in Chapter 12, network navigation within the network itself relies on numeric IP addresses and physical addresses. The inventors of the internet understood that the average user would have difficulty remembering the number groupings that are used as IP addresses, and created the hierarchical system of domain names as an alternative. The decision to offer translation from domain names to IP addresses as a basic internet service is one of the cleverest and most successful aspects in the original development of the TCP/IP protocol suite. When an application requests services from TCP/UDP or SCTP at the transport layer, it must supply a numerical IP address. TCP/IP provides a support application that fulfills the role of the domain name system protocol to translate domain names into IP addresses. The DNS application uses a massive distributed database organized as a directory system of servers to obtain the required information. Each entry in the database consists of a domain name and an associated IP address, plus some other information about the entry that is not of concern to us here. The directory system that is used to translate domain names into IP addresses is organized as a tree structure, very similar to the directory structure of a computer operating system, except that there is a separate server at each node on the tree. Figure 13.1 shows the structure of the tree. Each directory node on the tree provides name to IP address services corresponding to its position on the tree. There are three primary levels of interest. Below that, individual domain name owners can extend the number of levels down as far as they wish to convenience of organization and clarity. Domain name system server hierarchy. So we start right up at the top. You got the DNS root server. Generic domain name service are the top level domains of .com, .org, .edu, Amazon, Google, IBM. The next one is the country code, the domain name service, .de, .ch, .uk, .ao. And then you have subdomains and hosts. So at the top of the tree is a root directory called the DNS root server. Actually, there are 30 of these servers scattered all over the world, and each of them is actually a cluster consisting of many computers, also distributed widely, as you will see shortly. The DNS root servers must handle a large number of queries, more than 50 billion a day as of June 2008. Dispersing the root servers geographically reduces the amount of long-distance traffic by providing nearby access for as many queries as possible. DNS root servers have entries for all of the so-called top-level domains. There are country code top-level domain name servers, CCTLDs, for every identifiable country in the world, plus a number of authorized commercial and non-commercial type of domains. The non-country code domains include .com, .edu, .org, .net, and many more. In mid-2008, the decision was made to allow the creation of additional top-level domains. Figure 13.2 shows the table of some of the leading top-level domains in current use. As of June 2008, there were more than 160 million domain name registrations, according to the Domain Name Industry Brief, Domain 2008. Domain names below the top-level domains are registered for a small fee by users with one of a number of registrars. ICANN, see Chapter 12, see Section 2.12.6. assumes overall responsibility for the millions of registered names on the Internet. Domain names at this level are called local domains. The name must of course be unique. There can be no duplicates anywhere in the world. Once the domain name is registered, it can be used to assign names of individual nodes or hosts within that domain and matched to one or more assigned IP addresses. Domain names are read left to right, from the lowest subdomain to the top level domain. See figure 13.3 for an example. Each local domain must register the IP address of a domain name service of its own to identify its hosts and subdomains, if any. This server is called an authoritative domain name server. In the simplest case, there are no subdomains, rather than complicate matters. Part 4, Networks and Data Communications, figure 13.2. .com, number in millions, 75. .net, number in millions, 11.4. .org, number in millions, 6.7. .info, number in millions, 5.0. .biz, number in millions, 2.0. TLD, country code, generic. Simple domains usually rely on the authoritative domain name service of the Internet service provider to fulfill this requirement. Larger domains provide their own authoritative DNS servers. The authoritative domain name servers are the third tier in figure 13.1. Each top-level domain maintains multiple servers with tables containing entries for all of the registered names. Each name entry contains the IP address of its authoritative domain name server. As you can imagine, the tables for .com are huge. These tables are updated continually. Multiple servers are required to handle the volume. For redundancy and to protect the integrity of the Internet domain name system against attacks. These servers are also widely dispersed geographically. Each table is updated and synchronized periodically using a process called replication. Now consider a slightly simplified step-by-step description of the translation process that takes place when the user types the URL into a web browser application. The translation process is known as domain resolution. The steps are diagrammed in figure 13.4 and 13.5. 13.4 is a simple pointer diagram showing each of the steps. Figure 13.5 is a traditional flow diagram showing the same information in a different way. Both are included to make it easier for you to follow the steps. 1. The HTTP application extracts the domain from the URL and requests a resolution of the name from the DNS support application. The DNS application is a client program residing on the same host as the HTTP application. So this is a simple program call. The DNS client issues a query packet with the name to a local DNS server for resolution. Figure 13.3. The elements of a domain name. Host and alumni subdomain of my school, domain my school, top level domain, directory in www.host. Figure 13.4. HTTP client app, DNS client app, local DNS server, local DNS table, root server, top level server, authoritative server. The local DNS server is not part of the domain name server hierarchy. It could be on the host machine requesting service or elsewhere. More commonly, it is located elsewhere, on the same local area network as the host, or at an ISP's site, regardless of where it is located. Its IP address is already known by the DNS, the client application. Its task is simply to respond to requests from the DNS application with the IP address requested. Note that the DNS client request must follow the usual path through the layers of the network model. Since DNS request packets are simple and small, UDP datagrams are used for packet transport. The local DNS server table generally contains addresses of its own subdomains. It also frequently contains addresses of commonly used domain names, such as www.google.com and yahoo.com, as well as addresses for various top-level servers. It also stores, on a more temporary basis, the names and IP addresses resulting from other recently issued requests. If the information is in the local DNS table, the information is returned to the DNS client by the local DNS server as a response to the query. Again, through all 5 layers, using UDP as the transport mechanism, the DNS client passes the IP address to the HTTP application. The DNS application's job is done. If the local DNS server does not have the information in its own table, the process continues unless the local server already has an IP address for the appropriate top-level DNS server. It must query one of the DNS root servers, seeking that address. In that case, the root server responds with IP address of a nearby top-level server. Next, the local DNS server issues a query to the DNS top-level server, requesting the IP address of the authoritative DNS server associated with the requested domain name. 5. Finally, the authoritative DNS server responds with the requested IP address. The local DNS server returns the address to the DNS client on the host machine, making the original request. The IP address is delivered to the HTTP application. We're done. DNS offers useful services beyond the basic one-to-one name to IP address translation service described above. Two of these are mentioned here. The domain name system permits the use of alias names that share the same IP address. This is particularly useful when the actual host is deep within a subdomain and is hard to remember. Its name can be aliased with a simpler name. DNS can determine the actual name and IP address from the simpler name. This aliasing capability even extends to the use of the same alias for both web and mail applications. DNS can also perform load balancing for organizations that require multiple replicated servers to handle large request loads. An obvious example of such an organization is Google.com, whose websites receive billions of communications every year. Recall that we mentioned in Chapter 2 that Google.com has a large number of web server sites all over the world for handling search queries. Each site is connected to a different part of the internet, and each site has its own IP address. However, one domain name, Google.com, is associated with all of these sites. DNS includes all of the IP addresses associated with the name in its database. DNS will return the entire list of potential IP addresses in response to a query. However, it modifies the order of the listing each time a query is made. DNS clients normally select the first IP address on the list, therefore the requests are distributed approximately evenly among the different sites. This has the additional advantage of equalizing the traffic load over different parts of the internet. 13.3 Next step, TCP and the transport layer will be next. Inshallah.